This video was a Patreon request from a while ago. Since the last episode of Dramatic Survivor was over a year ago, I'm going to link it in the description, and I'm going to go off of how that video ended to set up this one. So after Chris goes to prison for tax fraud and Rigby wins the money, he and Mordecai retire and give Benson the finger, which infuriates him, although Muscle Man does find it pretty funny. Nicole, Sky, Beck, and Luca are all one big happy family now. And after Gumball and Darwin move out, she even lets them stay since it's not like Richard is getting anything done around the house anyway. Anais graduated from college once she turned 11, by the way, so she was already out before her brothers. Along with the other contestants, everyone is given access to a multiversal streaming service which allows them to watch the next season, now hosted by MC Ballyhoo. After Jax got sent back to the Amazing Digital Circus, as this new season begins, he watches it with everyone, including Kane, who has a look of disdain on his face as he watches his long-lost brother host the show he always wanted to host. But no, instead he's stuck in the digital circus while Ballyhoo lives the dream. Homni even notices how angry Kane seems to be and that it's so unlike him. But Jax tells her he's just jealous that Jax got more popular on Dramatic Survivor than he was on Digital Circus, which makes Kane cope and seethe since he takes that as a hit to his pride in terms of being able to provide entertainment. MC Ballyhoo takes a magic remote out of his hat and goes through a multi-dimensional portal to enter the next universe where this season will be hosted, 8B. He introduces the members of the Night Owl team first. Ellie and Gabby have been together for a while and have experience with shows like this, but their love for each other and confident demeanor are halted by Scott's skeevy vibe as he enters. Isabel greets everyone, only to be extremely put off by the Goths as the only god they serve is darkness, which Isabel notes makes spreading God's work quite difficult in their case. Tigress bows to everyone and assures her teammates Master Shifu's training will make her an invaluable asset to the team. And Gabby comes over to shake her hand rapidly as she's enamored by the amazing Tiger, gushing over her and telling her she's literally her spirit animal, which flatters but also confuses Tigress. Nick Wilde tries to avoid an introduction until MC Ballyhoo forces one out of him, and he slyly tries to appeal to his team, leading to awkward silence only broken by Dr. Robotnik's grand entrance in the Eggmobile, accompanied by lots of robots and flashing lights, impressing the team and allowing Nick out of the spotlight once more. Meanwhile on the Morning Birds, Dwayne tells Tristan it's nice to meet her, and Tristan politely corrects him, saying that they are non-binary. Dwayne asks what that means, and Junior explains it to him. He says, "Right, of course, I knew that. That's what all the cool kids are doing today. Rock on!" as he throws up a huge gang sign. Junior facepalms and apologizes to Tristan for his dad's cringy weirdness, and Tristan says it's all good and that his dad seems like a cool and funny dude, which Junior is very surprised by. And Junior is like, "Really?" Just then, Doofenshmirtz and Eileen enter at the same time, and Doofenshmirtz pushes a button on his remote, strapping Eileen to the ground. "I've got you now, Perry the Platypus." Oh, wait, you're not Perry the Platypus. Doof reverses the trap and apologizes to Eileen for mistaking her for someone else. She says it's fine, though not how she expected to start the day, but Rigby has done crazier. MC Ballyhoo breaks the fourth wall and says, "Ha ha ha! He sure has!" referring to the Rigby in Universe 8A who won $1 million. Vanessa comes in an Uber from a different portal as she didn't want to go through her dad's weird portal experiment. As she gets out of the Uber, she flips her hair back in slow motion, instantly making Junior fall in love with her. Something Tristan notices and nudges him on the shoulder to stop staring, and Junior coughs and pretends like he wasn't looking. Vanessa walks over to Tristan and nonchalantly compliments their style, and Tristan says, "Thanks, likewise." And Vanessa walks off and tells her dad she hopes he hasn't already been too weird. Doof says, "What? No, come on, me? Weird?" Vanessa looks at Eileen and says, "He thought you were Perry and trapped you, right?" Eileen says, "Yeah." Light Yagami walks through and bows, saying it's a pleasure to meet everyone and looks forward to working with his team. He doesn't attract much attention, which is exactly what he wants. Meg and Peach enter around the same time and, let's just say after what happened between Meg and Mario, and Meg in that one cutaway gag, she and Peach are not on great terms, despite only now meeting in person for the first time. Peach glares at her with a threatening smile as she greets the rest of her team with warm enthusiasm, and Meg just calls her a slutty bitch under her breath. Ballyhoo announces that now that everyone is acquainted, it's time to immediately jump into the first challenge. For episode 1, it's a custom one. Teams must work together to push a big boulder to the top of a mountain. First team to reach the top with their boulder and all their teammates is the winner. So obviously what this comes down to is team strength, and while Light, Meg, and Peach are all heavy hitters, Meg and Peach don't cooperate well with each other, always losing momentum of the boulder. While Light contributes but doesn't want to use his full strength just yet, as to not look like a threat too early, but rather look like a regular contributing team member. Meanwhile, the Goths and Tigress slowly manage to move the boulder until they reach the sudden spike in the cliff, causing them to lose hold on it and struggle to keep it from crushing them and tumble back down. Isabel panics and prays for a solution while Gabby is about to step in, though Ellie tries to talk her out of it. But before she can, Dr. Robotnik comes through and says, "Fear not, for I have a solution, in the form of science." He blasts the rock with a gun, stabilizing it, which everyone cheers for. Even the goths a little, as they say, "Woo." However, it's not long before the rock starts floating directly upward into the air, which Doofenshmirtz laughs at since for once an invention backfired that was not his. This greatly offends Eggman, and he fires the blast at Doofenshmirtz, trying to cause the same thing to happen to him. But Doof dodges the blast before announcing that it is now on. He pulls out another remote control from his lab coat and summons the Forget About It-inator, which causes the target to have a completely random amount of memory loss. Could be anywhere from the last 30 seconds of their life to the last 30 years. He fires it at Eggman, laughing maniacally despite Vanessa's attempts to de-escalate the situation. However, the blast ends up being deflected off of the Eggmobile, and suddenly Scott is hit with the green blast, essentially turning him into an overgrown infant. Doofenshmirtz bangs the inator with his fist in frustration as he struggles to maintain control of it. It ends up hitting Scott with yet another blast, this time returning all of Scott's memories right up to the point where he is on the boat in the first episode of Revenge of the Island. After sniffing his armpit, he looks around in confusion, realizing he is no longer on the boat, surrounded by completely different people, having absolutely no idea where he is. Just then, the Eggmobile swoops in and scoops Scott up in the air and throws him at Doof, knocking both of them over. Dr. Robotnik laughs maniacally at his victory in this feud, before his whole team stares daggers at him for completely ruining the challenge. After Tristan tries and fails to mediate Mario's love triangle since they are conflict-averse, Light takes over for them and is able to get Peach and Meg to put their differences aside for the three of them to successfully roll the boulder up the mountain, with everyone else's help. The Morning Birds cheer at their victory, which doesn't resolve Meg and Peach's mutual hatred, but it does get Tristan to thank Light for stepping in and doing what they couldn't. Light refuses to take all the credit, though, and thanks Tristan for being a team player. Also, it is worth noting that Light Yagami does not have the Death Note in this verse, despite the fact that he is still Kira and knows everything that he did in Death Note. He also still has Ryuk by his side, which obviously only he can see. And I think because Tristan and Ryuk have the exact same fashion sense, Ryuk would continue to egg on Light to be friends with them because Ryuk thinks they're really cool. Light has a confessional expressing this is exactly where he wants to be. Well liked, but without standing out too much. Precisely what he needs to carry out future plans. As for the Night Owls, Eggman tries to plead his case at elimination and shift the blame onto the Goths for not having as much team spirit as he does, but this greatly backfires. On top of everything else Eggman already has pulled today, it turns out the Goths are actually huge Sonic fans, and as such are very familiar with Sonic lore. Meaning they know a lot about Eggman's mistreatment of animals, proving it with photos, videos, and everything. And, well, Scott is obviously pissed at him for throwing him. Gabby is a notorious animal lover and her supportive girlfriend would join in on the vote. Isabel wouldn't stand for the cruelty. He just tried to throw the Goths under the bus, so they're against him. And the other two team members are themselves animals, so this is pretty clearly an 8-1 vote against Robotnik, who leaves in frustration. This episode's challenge is the same one from episode 2 of Pocket Island, I Love You Grease Pig. On the Morning Birds, Light and Tristan are sure to separate Meg and Peach as they each go with them, and both women try to plead their case for why the other is a no-good wench, and should be voted out for ruining their relationship with Mario. Tristan is super uncomfortable about getting roped into all this drama, while Light Yagami looks like he's listening attentively, but secretly wants to genuinely crash out at how annoying Meg is being. Eileen and Doofenshmirtz pair up next to each other, and Doofenshmirtz tries to put an evil inator on the pig, similar to the one Scarlet made in that episode. But after it hits Isabel in the face with mud, Eileen tells him to cut it out and take it off, and apologizes to the nun. Isabel says it's okay and she forgives her, but has a twitch in her eye while doing so. Beyond that, it's pretty much smooth sailing in the challenge, despite more cringe dad jokes from Dwayne, up until we get to Scott. Since this is now Revenge of the Island Scott, now he would be in full-on sabotage mode, and since this whole race revolves around a pig, which he loves messing with at home, he would purposefully make it go backwards, and try to frame Tigress since he can tell she's onto him from the jump. However, this backfires as Nick saw him sabotage the pig before pinning the blame on Tigress and exposing him. And since Gabby is an animal lover, she would easily be convinced not to trust Scott's lies along with Ellie as well. After Vanessa climbs the wall at the end with ease and wins the challenge for the team, the Morning Birds celebrate once again, and the Night Owls lose yet another player. The Goths can immediately tell Isabel has darkness inside her, after the mudslinging incident and in the challenge where they saw how close she was to crashing out, which they tell her they think is dope. And although Isabel denies it, she decides to use this as an opportunity to form an alliance with them. The Goths think about it for a bit, since it would be pretty weird to have a nun attached to the hip. But they like her edge and think it's a good idea, so they accept. Ultimately, though, Scott still gets 7 votes, as Isabel and the Goths don't want to go against the majority this early on, especially not for someone as scummy and transparently untrustworthy as Scott, who leaves extremely bitter at his loss. Gabby is appalled at all the animal cruelty that's been going on her team, but is at least glad both culprits immediately got voted out as karma. This episode's challenge is the same as the final pre-merge one in Island. Ellie decides to ask Tigress for an official alliance between them and Gabby as a trio, since Gabby's girl crush on Tigress couldn't be more obvious. She practically worships her like a celebrity. And though she's still kind of weirded out by it, it's nice to get so much positive attention from someone, as she still has that feeling of missing said attention from Shifu, and not being the Dragon Warrior despite training so hard for it before. When Tigress joins Ellie and Gabby, Gabby tells Ellie she's the best girlfriend ever for arranging it and kisses her, while asking way too many questions about Kung Fu to Tigress. This puts Nick in a weird position. He can immediately tell the 2 alliances formed on his team just by reading his team's body language and vibes, and notices that this makes him the swing vote, grinning deviously upon realizing this. Light and Tristan are vibing while Junior interrupts their convo to get their advice on how to ask out Vanessa. They both look at each other awkwardly before Tristan can point out Junior is way too young for her and is bound to get rejected. But Light stops Tristan before they can say that and tells Junior to wait for the right moment. Light insists to Tristan that it's better not to break his heart yet till the teams merge, so as to not lose team morale, which Tristan thinks is pretty cold, but also understandable to keep their winning streak going. Vanessa asks Eileen if she wants to be in an alliance with her and her dad, since she knows he can be a lot, but she promises he's a good guy at heart, and it'll be easier to stop getting him to fuck around if they're both there with him. Eileen says she's in. Dwayne overestimates his chill vibes as he attempts to squash the beef between Meg and Peach, which only makes things worse, forcing Junior to pull him out before he actually gets hurt. This episode's challenge is extreme torture from Island, and the pairs for each part of the challenge are as follows. For the plane jump, it's Gabby versus Peach. For the moose riding, it's Vanessa versus Crimson. And for the mud skis, it's Nick versus Meg, and then Dwayne versus Tigress. For the plane jump, Gabby volunteers because she likes extreme sports stuff and desperately wants to impress Tigress. And Peach does it because, well, if you've played Mario games where she's playable, you'd know she could do this in her sleep. Unsurprisingly, Peach floats down onto the mattress with ease and grace to boot, while Gabby falls face first into the floor, hospitalizing her for the rest of the episode. Point goes to the morning birds. For the moose riding, Vanessa and Crimson would both be ridiculously good at this, to the point where it would probably take several hours before either of them lose, but in the end, I think Crimson barely edges her out, since her on-screen feat on the mechanical bull in the Redonkulous race seems almost impossible to outdo for most people. They both compliment each other, and Vanessa says they should do it again sometime for fun, and Crimson gives her a fist bump. Point goes to the Night Owls. Finally, the first round on mudskis is Nick Wilde driving while Meg collects flags and tries not to fall off. Nick does it because he thinks it'd be really funny to drag someone through the mud, and Meg does it because seeing Peach do her challenge so effortlessly in the plane jump makes her blood boil, and she just has to one-up her. In the end, I think Nick underestimates just how tenacious Meg is, especially when she's angry as she is now, and Meg scores the point. The Night Owls are given the chance to tie it up again, which Tigress does successfully do after flipping Dwayne off her ride almost instantly, forcing Junior to check up on his dad after his overconfidence resulted in a mud bath. Junior admits it was pretty cool and very funny to watch his dad attempt that, even if he didn't win. So now MC Ballyhoo needs a tiebreaker, and he refers to his dual candy minigame wheel, and for those of you who've played Mario Party 8, I guess you'd be familiar with this mechanic. Anyway, it lands on Chump Rope, which is really just who can jump rope the longest, and volunteers are Isabel and Light. The two smirk at each other and begin jumping as both can handle all the speed changes just fine. This forces MC Ballyhoo to kick things up a notch and throw a bunch of coins at both players, but neither are blinded by greed as both are driven by something greater. One of them her religion, the other his quest to play God. In the end, Isabel is the winner, shocking Light as he was sure no one could match his composure and tenacity. But Isabel's crazy parties in high school gave her the ability to jump as many times as she needs, while still keeping her posture intact from all that Sunday school, making her an unstoppable force in this tiebreaker. Light crashes out in confessional at losing the tie-breaking point, and to a nun no less, a mere servant of a higher power that should be him. Ryuk wonders if Kira is about to reveal himself, but Light assures him that he won't let that happen so easily. Light Yagami apologizes to his team for losing, and Tristan tells him that it's alright, but the rest of the team doesn't have much to say, which is very worrying for Light. Light knows Tristan is well liked by basically everyone on the team and coordinates a plan to get Tristan to connect him and the father and son into a four-way alliance, who will vote for Meg. They ask why Meg, since she won the challenge and was useful, But Light coldly tells them that Dwayne is clearly the weakest link and they need to all vote together or else he's a goner, making Dwayne gulp in fear. Meanwhile, Light also knows about the three-person alliance between Doofenshmirtz, Vanessa, and Eileen, but chooses not to involve himself in multiple alliances at once, instead getting Junior to convince Vanessa to vote out Peach. Why? Because she's royalty and doesn't need the money. And the fact that she chose the one challenge before where floating was practically a cheat code, without telling anyone beforehand, is a sign of trouble in the future for someone who is too arrogant and too smart for their own good. This reasoning is something Light tells Junior to tell them by himself, so that it's harder to trace it back to him so he doesn't look too smart himself, and say that it was his idea, as Light does not want this reasoning to get traced back to him so that he's not perceived as a threat. Light Yagami also lies to Junior, saying that if he does pretend it's his idea, it'll impress Vanessa and it'll convince her that he's smart enough to think of this. All of this works exactly as Light intends, while Meg and Peach obviously vote for each other, making it a 4-4 vote. While Light himself votes for Dwayne to scare him and back up his claim that the team would have voted him out with more votes had Light not stepped in to save the day. Light feels much better in confessional after this plays out despite his challenge loss, as his ability to manipulate his team into doing exactly as he pleases once again fulfills his destiny as Kira. Anyway, in the 4-4-1 vote, this causes a tie, and before both Meg and Peach get to fight each other in the tiebreaker, it is revealed to be a double elimination, causing both of them to get kicked back into Bowser's castle, forcing Mario to save both of them once again. However, it turns out the door was left unlocked, and Meg and Peach just leave and finally learn to settle their differences. Meanwhile, Meg and Peach confront Mario as a united front, and they all go to therapy as a potential polycule. Moving on to episode 4, which is another custom challenge, Sea Legs Balance. Teams are tasked to stand on the frame of the sails on their ship for as long as they can, and the team to have all their teammates fall into the water first loses. Everyone wakes up on the ship and gets straight into the challenge. Honestly, I don't really think it's worth going through the challenge in details, as it's really obvious the Night Owls are winning with the Goths and the Tigress. They clear everyone else with their balance super easily. This means the Morning Birds go to elimination, and since Eileen doesn't know about Light's grand plan, she asks him to be the 4th vote with her, Doofenshmirtz and Vanessa. Light then has an inner dialogue.
Damn it. Now that Eileen has told me about her alliance, I can no longer pretend I didn't know about it and use that to my advantage. This leaves me no choice but to say yes to her proposal, otherwise they'll all vote for me. Unless she knew that I knew about her alliance from the start, and chose to tell me, so I didn't have plausible deniability about knowing it, and I can't hide my power level with Vanessa or Doofenshmirtz. Is she some sort of mastermind? Could she also know that I was Akira?
Also, I didn't know where else to put this, but Gabby begs Tigress to teach her Kung Fu, which worries Ellie since she doesn't want Gabby to get even more hurt than she already did. But by the end of the episode, Tigress agrees, and Nick Wilde would pick up on Ellie's worry. When he approaches her, Ellie tells him to fuck off and that she'd never betray Gabby, but Nick tells her to cool it, since she never asked her to. Just keep her safe and they'll all vote together to make sure Gabby is safe, in and outside the game. Ellie doesn't trust Nick, but realizes it's an objectively good idea and accepts. Anyway, Light says he'd be happy to help Eileen out, and she says, cool, thanks, then skips away gleefully. Ryuk thinks it's really funny how triggered Light is by Eileen, then tells him he wants to be near Tristan again because they're cool and based. Light tells Ryuk to shut up and feeds him an apple to keep him satiated. Junior asks Tristan if they're doing alright, as now they look really down since Light is too busy strategizing to talk to them as much. Tristan admits while they do like Light, all his strategy talk is really overwhelming and gives them a lot of anxiety. And seeing Junior and his dad makes them low-key envious of what they have. This confuses Junior since while he does love his dad in a familial sense, he also thinks he's extremely cringe and embarrassing. To answer his question, without going into too much detail since he's 11, Tristan tells him they wish their dad was there for them the same way Dwayne is for Junior, since Tristan's dad was never really there for them. At least, not there for the person Tristan is now. Not having all the details, Junior isn't exactly sure what they mean, but know enough to sense it's very sad and almost brings him to tears, making him appreciate his dad more. When Dwayne comes over to the two of them nervously to ask what they're doing for the vote, Junior smiles at him and tells them they should vote however he wants, which surprises Dwayne, and Tristan smiles at the new bond they help facilitate. Unfortunately, this would be very short-lived, as Light feels he has no choice but to vote with Eileen's alliance, and in a 4-3 vote, Dwayne is eliminated. He can't vote for Tristan since Ryuk likes them, and he'd be really obnoxious if they were to get eliminated, and Junior is someone he knows can be manipulated with his crush on Vanessa. Whereas Dwayne is a bumbling oaf and a challenge liability, so he was the easiest to send off. Junior and Tristan have a tearful goodbye for Dwayne, giving him a group hug before he leaves. This next episode is the fear-based challenge in DC1, Mazed and Confused. Junior confronts Light knowing he voted off his dad and angrily asks him why he'd do that. Light convincingly explains it was Doofenshmirtz's idea since he wanted to be the sole controlling adult on the team and is super overprotective of his daughter. Light tells him this to purposely give him grand delusions of rescuing Vanessa from an overbearing parent. Light continues to lie about how Heinz Doofenshmirtz threatened him with one of his deadly innators if he didn't vote alongside them. And not only does Junior believe him, he's exactly where he wants him to be. Anyway, whoever wins this challenge comes down to whichever team has the most people who can face their fears. So I'm going to go through each person step by step. Gabby's fear is the same as Canon, but now she has to be alone in a metal box, which makes it even more claustrophobic than before. Ultimately, though, she does succeed thanks to Tigress's training, which by this point is mostly breathing exercises, basic moves, and composure, which helps Gabby out a lot here. Ellie. Unlike Gabby, this is different from Canon, as now she must show her unfinished artwork to her team and fear being judged. She's able to do it, and the Goths actually really like it, which surprises her. Nick. MC Ballyhoo summons Judy Hopps and forces them to have therapy in public. Yeah, he can't do it. He just started this process in Zootopia 2 with Judy only, and it was in a high-pressure situation. He can't do it in public. Tigress. MC Ballyhoo summons Tai Lung and forces her to fight him again one-on-one, and win. She accepts the challenge and actually puts up a better fight than she did in Kung Fu Panda 1, but alas, Tai Lung is just too strong for her. She loses, but Gabby and Ellie praise her for trying and putting up such a strong fight. Isabel. Remove her nun attire. No way in hell she can do it. No pun intended. The Goths think it's a shame as they wanted to see Isabel in a more raw form, but nonetheless they understand. The Goths. Lose Loki again. They immediately say no before Ballyhoo can even finish the prompt. Fair enough. This gives the Night Owls a total of 2 points. Yeah, not great. Moving on to the Morning Birds. First up is Tristan. MC Ballyhoo knows their actual greatest fear, confronting their abusive father, is way too far even for a challenge like this. So instead, he just makes them punch Light in the face because he thinks it's funny. Tristan doesn't like violence, but Light Yagami really wants to win, so he lets Kira out and verbally obliterates Tristan till they punch him in the face for the challenge. Afterwards, Light Yagami pretends like he was just acting after the fact. Everyone is shocked by this display, but Light breaks the tension by telling Tristan they did a good job. Junior, getting rejected by Vanessa. This is really simple because all he needs to do is ask her out for this to happen, which he knew was going to happen anyway, so might as well get it over with. He gets rejected and clears the challenge. Light Yagami. MC Ballyhoo transports Light into a private room with the actual Death Note inside. In order to get the extra time for his team, he must write the name of any contestant on either team in the Death Note, and risk having the effect of this death be a much higher chance of being exposed as Kira. Light weighs the pros and cons of accepting or of refusing, and ultimately decides his team should already be able to win even without his help, so he ultimately decides not to. After he fails, his team asks what his fear was, and Light Yagami lies and says it was being trapped in a cage with an angry bear, which everyone buys. Vanessa and Doofenshmirtz. Recreate the worst daddy-daughter date they ever had. This wasn't emotionally bad or anything, the service was just genuinely terrible at the restaurant they went to, and Heinz complained for days afterwards. But they still let MC Ballyhoo transport them back there, and they get on with it, so they each get a point. I don't really know what Eileen's fear is, but either way, it doesn't really matter, because the Morning Birds already have more than enough of a lead to win by this point. So the Night Owls go to elimination, and Nick is still the swing vote. However, while Isabel tries to get Nick on her side, Nick decides that ultimately, Gabby and Ellie are not only lesser challenge threats and less unpredictable than the Goths and the Nun, but also were the only two to succeed in this challenge. So overall, they're much more useful to him. Plus, Gabby really likes animals, so he wants to stay on her good side. In a 4-3 vote, Ennui is eliminated since he creeps out his team the most. He has a seemingly emotionless but heartfelt goodbye with Crimson, and a limp handshake with Isabel, then leaves. But MC Ballyhoo reveals whoever got the second most votes is switching teams, and gets to decide who they're switching with. And the Goths wanted to vote out Gabby for being the most jubilant and personally off-putting on the team, so they and Isabel did just that. This means that Gabby is forced to switch teams and depart from Ellie and Tigress. But she does get to pick whoever takes her place. Gabby knows next to nothing about the other team, but she picks Doofenshmirtz since this weird old guy in a lab coat with kooky inventions kinda gives her a weird vibe and she'd prefer not to be on the same team as him. Heinz complains that he has to leave his daughter and goes on a long rant about how he hates moving, but what's done is done. Episode 6, Dodge Brawl. Y'all know what Dodge Brawl is. Doofenshmirtz is bummed out that he and his daughter are separated, but Ellie tells him it's not ideal for her either since her girlfriend is separate from her too. Nick puts his hands on both of their shoulders, telling them to cheer up and that he's sure Gabby and Vanessa will be fine. He proposes a 3-person alliance. so that they can check up on their people on the other team, and have enough numbers that if they make others suspicious, they have the numbers to not care. Ellie and Doofenshmirtz cross their arms and begrudgingly say, fine. Isabelle tries to comfort Crimson now that Ennui is gone, but she simply tells her to go away, as she doesn't want to deal with her right now. Gabby is super friendly with everyone on her new team, and everyone really likes her. Except for Light, who reminds him a little bit too much of Misa, but pretends like he loves Gabby as much as everyone else. MC Ballyhoo announces whoever wins this next challenge will be given a 1 in 6 chance of winning a special advantage, which will help them later in the game. This way, whoever gets it will be anonymous. To keep things simple, I'm gonna say this is just one round of dodgeball. The last team standing wins. Tigress immediately catches the ball Junior throws at him, then hits Gabby with it immediately after, proving the student has very much not yet become the master. Tristan is able to tag Ellie with their good arm, and Vanessa dodges everything thrown at her with ease, and gets Nick out as well. Doofenshmirtz pulls out his freeze ray to freeze all the balls in place, thrown at his team before they can hit anyone, allowing his team to grab all of them and get Eileen and Tristan out as well in an onslaught. Vanessa's seen his dad use this gun before though, so she takes her shoe and throws it at Doof's invention, causing it to break, and subsequently hitting him in the face with all the balls he froze. He says, "That's my daughter," before fainting from the impact of the balls. Tigress uses the distraction to chuck a ball at Vanessa really fast, which hits her right in the face and knocks her down, which Doofenshmirtz takes offense to. Tigress argues it's the game and they're on the same team, but Doof insists that was unnecessary. Tigress claps back, saying he's one to talk about being unnecessary with all his wacky gadgets and long rants. But this argument allows Light an opening, striking Tigress in the chest with a ball, getting her out and making her realize her focus isn't as good as it needs to be. After Light catches the ball thrown by Crimson, it's down to just him and Isabelle. Isabelle taunts him, asking if he's ready to lose to her again, causing Kira to smile and ensure that does not happen. Light waits patiently for Isabelle to throw all her balls at him and run out of ammo, then picks up all the balls at once and launches them one after another so fast that he literally backs Isabelle into a corner and hits her in the neck with one, causing her to choke for a few seconds. To make sure no one understands what he's saying, he says the following in Japanese: "You are a mere slave to a god that has abandoned you. I am the true god of our world who provides justice to it. We are not the same." Tigress and Ellie check on Isabelle to make sure she's okay, which she is. And the morning birds, while happy that they won, are all legitimately terrified of Light now, which he very much notices, for better or for worse. For Night Owls at elimination, Nick and Doofenshmirtz insist Tigress is the biggest threat, come merge, and urge Ellie to vote her off with them. But Ellie knows how hurt Gabby would be if she betrayed her new animal friend role model, and while she lies to them saying yes, she secretly tells Tigress about this behind their backs instead. Outraged, Tigress thanks Ellie for her loyalty and tells her that her relationship with Gabby is filled with trust and honor, two things a true warrior always values. Ellie says, thanks? And since they were the ones to check on Isabelle if she was hurt, she naturally gravitates toward them as well. The three of them decide who to vote off between Nick or Doof, and while Isabelle suggests Doofenshmirtz, Tigress surprises her and Ellie by advocating for actually keeping him in. Tigress realizes her fight with Hines was in part due to a lack of discipline on her part, and voting him out of spite wouldn't be the honorable thing to do. Plus, his innators make him way more useful in challenges than Nick, who at this point is pretty clearly untrustworthy, hence why Crimson also votes for him. So, in a 4-2 vote, Nick Wilde is eliminated. He's shocked and tells Ellie he thought they had a deal, and Ellie tells him he thought wrong and to be more honest next time, looking at Tigress and both nodding in approval as she says this. Nick huffs and says, "Right, great takeaway. I'm sure that'll help you pay the bills." Ellie tells him, whatever, and he leaves feeling cheated and pissed. Doofenshmirtz is shocked to have survived that elimination, and now feels kinda bad for blowing up at Tigress, realizing she could have ended his game and must have chosen not to. Also, the random number generator chose Junior the steal a vote item. Episode 7 is Basic Straining, another Island classic. However, instead of Chef hosting it this time, MC Ballyhoo summons Sergeant Roderick from that one SpongeBob episode to be the merciless boot camp facilitator. First rule, no talking. Doofenshmirtz asked if that means, before he can answer, Doof gets thrown out of the building and is out of the challenge. Vanessa facepalms. The first person to give up on the canoe lift is Eileen, since she's the shortest and probably has even less upper body strength than Junior does. Ellie and Gabby miss each other and try to talk during the boot camp, but the sergeant keeps telling them to shut up and stay focused, until Gabby decides she ain't having none of that and tells him to keep his weird fish face to himself, causing Ellie to laugh and the sarge to crash out and send both of them to the boot camp jail cell together, which is way easier than the metal box from before, so really it's just time for them to enjoy together, and not much of a punishment. Crimson also leaves because the essay portion is too boring for her. Over time, Vanessa, Junior, Tristan, and Isabel all give in before the blood rush off the tree, as although he did get rejected by Vanessa, he still admires her, and he's also friends with Tristan, and since he has the steal vote, he really wants to keep up with his teammates and not appear dead weight. Something that both Tristan and Vanessa compliment him on for being able to keep up so long. Anyway, Vanessa, Junior, Tristan, and Isabel all give in before the blood rush off the tree, leaving Light versus Tigress at the end. Up to this point, Light has been the perfect pupil, an excellent student, perfect physical form, and endless endurance. There's simply no way Light can outlast Tigress hanging upside down. She's literally done things like this countless times during training for years at the Jade Palace, so she wins the challenge no problem. After the challenge, Tigress and Doofenshmirtz officially bury the hatchet. Episode 8 is another custom challenge. With this being the final pre-merge challenge, MC Ballyhoo announces that this will be a little bit different as teams are now broken up into pairs, and each camper will be tasked with taking turns going through obstacle courses one by one, and the winner is decided by which pair has the best average. He also mentions that the elimination is going to have a big, never-seen-before twist. The 5 pairs are on screen. Doofenshmirtz and Tigress are actually happy to be paired up together. Light feels his odds of winning this challenge with a literal child are basically non-existent, but he doesn't mind since he doesn't want to appear too much of a threat after his challenge prowess and wants to focus more on his social game. Gabby and Ellie are happy to be paired up again, while Isabel and Eileen know literally nothing about each other. Vanessa and Tristan dap each other up again as they're already friends. It's revealed that Tristan actually talked to Vanessa a lot off-screen and even shared some details about their personal life with her. And Vanessa offered Tristan a place to stay after they found out their old home wouldn't let Tristan back in anymore. After all, her dad does own that huge-ass building incorporated, so she's sure they have some space. They'll just have to deal with a platypus routinely breaking in. Tristan is super thankful and says they're sure they can handle it. As Light talks to Junior about what their next move should be, it becomes very clear to Light that Junior has the mystery advantage with how nervous he is around him. Light decides to use this as an opportunity to ask Junior who he thinks has the advantage, as this lets Junior think he's successfully hiding it and lets him pick someone else to target. So Light's knowledge of Junior actually having the item will be unknown to him. Junior tells Light that Gabby is the one that probably has it. Light tells Junior that makes perfect sense and they ought to force her to use it now before it's too late. Gabby tells Ellie she still doesn't trust Doofenshmirtz, but Ellie says, as surprised as she is to say, he and Tigress actually got along and the 4 of them should be in a new merge alliance. Gabby isn't sure, but after Ellie tells her about the Nick vote and everything that happened with Tigress, she reluctantly agrees to the 4-person alliance. For the obstacle course, while Light and Tigress excel, Junior and Doofenshmirtz weaken their averages by a lot. Eileen does a little better than either of them, but Isabel doesn't do nearly as well as Tigress or Light, so they don't win either. Tristan and Vanessa versus Gabby and Ellie all do pretty well and have the best averages overall, but because Vanessa did the best out of the 4 of them, she and Tristan both win immunity for the next vote. However, MC Ballyhoo reveals that not only is this another double elimination, they're also required to vote in pairs, meaning whichever pair gets the most votes are both eliminated. Gabby, Ellie, Tigress, and Doofenshmirtz think Light and Isabel are the biggest threats, but they ultimately decide Light is the bigger one, so they vote for him and Junior. But Light and Isabel both know this, and so before Light can formulate a plan, Isabel actually approaches him and tells him they can't let each other get eliminated, otherwise they won't be able to hide behind each other. Junior and Eileen are stuck with them too and have no choice but to cooperate in order to stay in the game. So they vote together as well. Meaning the deciding votes are Vanessa and Tristan, who don't really know what to do since they obviously don't want to vote off Doofenshmirtz, but Tristan is also friends with Light and Junior. To make sure he isn't implicated in the future, Light tells Junior to tell Tristan and Vanessa what he told him about Gabby having the item, and having to get her out now before it's too late. This forces Junior to either reveal he actually has it, which lets Light essentially blackmail him, or lie to his friends about not having it to save himself, which is exactly what Light is counting on. Although I guess he's really blackmailing him either way, but yeah. Ultimately, Junior chooses the latter, and since Tristan and Vanessa have no reason not to believe him, in a 6-4 vote, Gabby and Ellie are voted off together. They're sad they couldn't make it any further, but happy they get to leave together, and wish Junior and Light luck. Junior feels super guilty while Light is exactly where he wants to be. We are now at the merge, and this next challenge is also custom. It's called Water Bomb. With the merge announced, campers are tasked to run around a greenhouse, hide and pass a watermelon which has a firecracker in it, to each other. The firecracker is unlit, but very sensitive to sunlight, and could blow up if exposed to too much of it. Whoever is holding the watermelon when it explodes is out. Eileen is chosen to start with it, per random number generator, and everyone runs away from her. Light tells Junior to stay still and put his hands in his pockets. Junior asks why he would do that, and Light explains that he still needs him in the game. And if you can't grab it, no one will throw it to you. As stupid as this plan sounds, it actually works. Eileen uses her squirrely abilities to run super quick, low to the ground where no one else can see her, and she apologizes as she hands it to Doofenshmirtz before he can react, and he sneaks around the building. Doofenshmirtz uses his freeze ray to prevent it from exploding from heat, but he made it so slippery that he drops it in the sunlight and the ice around it rapidly melts. He panics and grabs it and throws a Hail Mary with it, landing in Vanessa's lap. Panicking some more, Doofenshmirtz takes it back from his daughter and throws it back to Isabel, who hides it under her skirt to shield it from the light. Everyone runs away from Isabel, waiting for it to explode. She kisses her cross, not knowing what to do, and asks that the Lord be with her, and rolls it like a bowling ball below the shady plants. It brushes up against Tigress's tail, who instinctively kicks it away from her, landing right in Doofenshmirtz's lab coat. Once he notices, he takes it out and reaches for his freeze ray, but accidentally triggers his make things explode immediately innator, which results in Doofenshmirtz covered in black smoke. Tigress apologizes to Heinz, since she didn't mean to kick it back to him, and Vanessa is really sad to see her dad go, but he's proud of himself for taking this long before having an invention blow up in his face. Usually it happens in less than 24 hours. With this new record, he returns to the tri-state area he calls home. Episode 10 is yet another custom challenge. MC Ballyhoo has stranded the campers on a deserted island. The challenge is to see how long they can survive on it without begging Ballyhoo to come get them. Last camper on the island wins immunity. Light and Junior travel together and ask each other what they do with the money. Junior would buy every console and video game on the planet and drop out of school to be a full-time streamer. Light supposes there's worse things he could do with the money, since most of his peers at school are amateurs anyway, despite sharing the same education as him. With all her allies gone, Tigress ventures out to Isabel and asks to join forces with her, as together they'd be unstoppable. And she believes that she can light the same fire in her that she did for Gabby. Isabel isn't sure if she likes the sound of fire after that last challenge, but she'll consider it. Tigress bows and says, "Very well," and leaves her to pray in solitude. Light craves civilization, and Junior, Vanessa, and Isabel are all bound to have tech withdrawal sooner or later, and even though Tigress is an animal, she's not really used to the wild, as she's been raised at the highest beacon of civilization at the Jade Palace, so being in the woods alone is something she can only do for so long. Meanwhile, Eileen bumps into Tristan, and together they build shelter with creative teamwork like the Vibe Tribe did in episode 1 of Carnival of Chaos, and the design of the shelter is so unbelievably fire that MC Ballyhoo declares they both win immunity together. After awaiting an answer from the Lord, Isabel thinks it over and accepts Tigress's offer. But she also realizes that her, Tigress, and Light are considered the biggest threats left. And if it comes down to a popularity contest at the end, all three of them need to be aligned, otherwise they'll have no way to avoid getting outvoted. She tells Tigress this, and so Light is invited into the fold. Light tells them Junior is worth keeping in, since he's a child and cooperates easily, and lies about him being like a younger brother to him, to try to play on people's emotions. And since Eileen and Tristan are immune, that only leaves one person left. So, in a 4-3 vote, with Tigress getting the 3, Vanessa is eliminated. She shrugs, says oh well, and leaves right after her father. Episode 11, yet another custom challenge. This time, the campers get covered in honey. They have to make sure they don't get attacked by a swarm of murder bees that lurk everywhere around a padded room. However, there are multiple structures inside the padded room so that people can hide and explore and stuff. Think of it kinda like a 40k setup. Right off the bat, Tigress and Isabel's clothes have too much honey stuck to them with how much cloth they both wear, so no matter how much they try to escape or fight off the bees, they're doomed. Light and Junior hide on a roof until the bees catch up to them, and Light does a flip and lands on the ground perfectly, leaving Junior behind to win immunity for himself. After getting stung, Junior is incredibly pissed at Light and decides their alliance is now officially over. Tristan is seen lying on the floor, stung as Light enters a cabin, seeming to be in a Family Guy death pose, which freaks Light out and makes him desperate as he tries to cling to an escape route. However, it's not long before Light realizes he's cornered and has nowhere to go, trying to climb into the vent Eileen snuck into, only to not fit and get stung anyway. This means Eileen wins immunity once again, and at elimination, Light, Isabel, and Tigress all vote for Tristan, thinking they're the most popular, and once they're gone, they'll have complete control of the game and free reign to vote off each other. However, this is where Junior decides he's officially had enough, and he rallies Tristan and Eileen to vote off Light Yagami, and use his steal a vote advantage to steal Light's vote. This means that what would have been a 3-3 is now a 4-2 against Kira, who finally reveals his true self that he was hiding the whole time. But before he can finish his speech, MC Ballyhoo drags him into the portal, sending him back to the dock in Kyoto where he re-experiences his last breath. Ryuk says it was fun while it lasted, and that if he had an apple for every time Kira was done in by a child, he'd have 2 apples, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Isabelle is also scarred after witnessing that, and took it as a sign that the Lord has divine punishment ready for those who don't follow his word to a T, instilling new religious fear into her. Episode 12. You guessed it, Custom Challenge again. MC Ballyhoo puts the remaining campers' knowledge and willingness to not back out of the test, as this challenge is a trivia one with a twist. When a camper answers correctly, they get a point, but they also have to wear an electric collar that triggers when they get it right. However, if they answer wrong, they're forced to choose someone else to get that shock. The point of this challenge is to see which camper can outlast the others no matter how many times they get shocked. Before the challenge, everyone is still extremely traumatized by witnessing Light being dragged to his death, not to mention learning about who he really is and what he's really done. Isabelle does some soul-searching, essentially taking a sabbatical during the game, wandering in search of how such a dark event could be connected to her faith. After wandering around for hours and hours, long after the challenge began without her, she stumbles upon a portal which brings her to the same room that Light stood in during the fear challenge. And it still has the Death Note in it. Isabelle prays to the Lord one last time before very slowly approaching the Death Note. Once she touches it, a Shinigami appears behind her and scares her on purpose to be funny. After Ryuk has a nice laugh, he realizes, "Aw man, you're not Tristan," in disappointment. Isabelle continues freaking out upon seeing the Shinigami, asking him if he's a demon here that's going to drag her to hell. Ryuk has a hearty laugh and explains that is not the case. He tells her what's really going on, that he's a neutral observer and only those who touch the Death Note can see him. He then explains how it works and what it can do, which finally gives Isabelle the clarity she's been looking for. The path the Lord sent her on was to keep the Death Note safe and locked away, so the wicked couldn't use it to kill. She realizes no government or even any church can be trusted with such power. Really, no one in her dimension could. So she stashes it in her clothes and prays some more, looking for answers for where she can put it safely. Meanwhile, as the challenge begins without Isabelle, MC Ballyhoo tells the other 4 contestants that Isabelle's punishment will be automatic elimination from the game, so long as the other 4 compete. Which really means each one of them have to take 1 shock to the neck each. Since literally none of these people can handle more than 1 shock, and even that's pushing it for most of them, this kinda works out, as they all work together to answer the trivia correctly. Eileen is a trivia expert, so she is able to help Tigress and Junior get their questions right as well as her own. Unfortunately, Tristan gets a question they don't know, and neither does Eileen, and gets it wrong. Feeling guilty, they can't take the next shock themselves and must give it to someone else. Despite being incredibly sensitive to it, Tigress feels she must accept it, but Tristan doesn't let her. Instead, they willingly quit and leave themselves open for elimination, along with Isabelle. MC Ballyhoo says this challenge was kinda lame, but it was also really intense, so I guess he can't complain too much. After the challenge, Tigress searches for Isabelle and asks why she abandoned the challenge, and that she and Tristan are on the chopping block right now. Isabelle is barely paying attention to any of that, as she's found a higher purpose now than the game. Tigress looks confused, and Isabelle asks her if she can trust her with something gravely important, but she must promise to keep it a secret for the safety of all life. Tigress gives Isabelle her word, and she hands Tigress the Death Note, allowing her to see Ryuk as well, which naturally startles her. She tries to use Kung Fu on him, but Ryuk just stands there and doesn't react at all, as Tigress's attacks have no effect on him. Ryuk and Isabelle explain what the Death Note actually is and what Isabelle plans to do with it, and Ryuk explains he's a neutral observer and accompanies the Death Note user, yada yada, you get it. With Light, he used it to administer his own justice in the form of mass death, but with Isabelle, her goal is essentially the exact opposite. Prevent it from ever being used. Now understanding the full context and stakes of the situation, Tigress offers to quit the show and bring it back to the Jade Palace herself, but Isabelle insists that she do it. The reason being that Tigress is a famous kung fu martial artist in her universe. But while Isabelle is a famous influencer in her own universe, she's not at risk of dangerous rivals seeking out the Death Note from her the same way they would with Tigress if word got out about it. Plus, Isabelle wants to make sure it looks like she's getting eliminated the normal way and not her quitting, as to not raise suspicion as to why. With that, Tigress tells Tristan she's voting for Isabelle. Tristan is shocked to hear that, as they still feel guilty for getting the question wrong and almost making Tigress get shocked twice, but Tigress tells them it wasn't their fault, and that she wants to go to the final 2 with them, since they are the most honorable competitor left. And since Isabelle is voting for herself, that's enough votes to send Isabelle on her way. Not that it matters, since I do believe this is a 5-0 vote against Isabelle regardless, but yeah, she's gone. Isabelle asks MC Ballyhoo to send her to the Kung Fu Pandaverse instead of her own, as that's where the Lord is guiding her. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, and she goes on her way. Episode 13 is Up Up Away in My Pitiful Balloon, the World Tour Challenge. However, there are a couple changes. For one, Ballyhoo brings everyone to the Shy Guy train and explains that whoever gets to the front of the train must go to the roof and stay there until they reach the water, where the boats will take them to the finish line. The last person there is eliminated. Junior has played this in Mario Party 8 before, so regardless of RNG, he knows how to navigate this board, and is the first to reach the boats, finishing in first. Tristan is still too depressed and traumatized from everything that's happened both recently and in their life before the show, but Tigress tells them that they believe in them and that they just need to get creative to reach the end. Tristan buys the triple dice from the shop after coin farming and gets to the top that way, but is still too scared to jump. Tigress and Eileen both get to the front around the same time afterwards, without as many hacks as the first two, but they both see Tristan scared and alone, and they both encourage them by telling them they got this far on their own and should be proud, but now they'll all jump together and race to the finish, fair and square. Tristan cries tears of joy and hugs Tigress and Eileen, and as promised, all three of them jump together. Eileen gets her boat running the quickest, and her boat crosses the finish line before those on the other two. Tigress, being on the same boat as Tristan, since there were only two left, picks them up and yeets them across the finish line right before Eileen gets there, effectively eliminating herself to put Tristan in the final three. Tristan asks why Tigress would do that, and she says it's because the Jade Palace has plenty of money. She came on the show to expand her martial arts knowledge and experience and challenge herself. The money was just a potential bonus. Tristan, in confessional, admits they have a mix of emotions between gratefulness and guilt. The finale is the same challenge as the finale in Reboot Season 1, Sore Losers. Tristan and Junior fist bump each other and congratulate each other for making it to the finale. Tristan nudges Junior on the shoulder jokingly and tells him he better not sacrifice himself for them because too many people have already done that and it's getting old. Junior tells them not to worry because they plan on crushing them and winning that money. The two playfully laugh off the lighthearted conversation. Eileen looks nervous since this is clearly shaping up to be a 2v1, but that nervousness quickly encapsulates everyone once MC Ballyhoo reveals the final challenge. Only this time, all the eliminated contestants return to help the finalist of their choosing. By this point, the Death Note is sealed away in an undisclosed location, so nobody can touch it, nor even knows what it even is. And Light Yagami is dead, but Ryuk is still here instead, with only Isabelle and Tigress able to see and hear him. Tristan blushes at the unsurprisingly enormous amount of support they got, while Eileen looks nervous at her scarce assistance, especially since Meg and Peach are there. They assure her they buried the hatchet and are prepared to help her win. Junior is happy to see his dad again, but less happy about who his other helpers are. But, realizing what he's up against, he accepts that he's going to have to embrace being the villain in order to have a fighting chance. For the first part of the challenge, Tristan's team is able to chop the tree and get the log ride super quickly. While Eileen and Junior lag behind, Scott sets a bunch of traps on the way to the lava pool before anyone even started, which splits Tristan and Eileen's teams in half. But Meg and Peach are able to dodge all of them due to having platforming experience, and they carry Eileen across the lava and take the lead. Junior and Dwayne remain in last as Tigress kicks Scott in the face to knock him out and stop him from making any more traps, with Vanessa and Hines right behind her. Just when it seems like Junior is done for, Eggman steps in with the whole-ass egg fleet, blocking the finish line and firing at all his opponents as he laughs maniacally. Junior feels guilty about how he's taking the lead, but nonetheless uses it as an opportunity to finish first with his dad in this part of the challenge. Peach and Meg try to find an opening, but can't quite find one, with Tigress and Vanessa in the same situation. So with no other options, Dr. Doofenshmirtz uses his location change-inator, which is really just a teleporter, except when used, instead of making the egg fleet go away, it makes them all teleport into each other, causing a massive explosion, which forces Eggman to retreat, while blowing Doofenshmirtz, Vanessa, and Tigress all the way back to the beginning. Peach uses the opportunity to carry Eileen while floating, but Tristan finally takes initiative for themselves and hangs on to Peach's foot, unbeknownst to her, dropping down at the finish line before Eileen can, shocking everyone. With that, the final two is Tristan versus Junior at the final stretch. Run up the mountain, milk the goat, and roll down the hill inside the ball. No dialogue, no more helpers, no more tricks, just a straight sprint to the finish. In the end, by the skin of his teeth, Junior is able to win the $1 million prize. Tristan congratulates Junior, but he still feels guilty for how he was able to win, and tells Tristan he wants to give some of the money to them, so that they can afford to live somewhere on their own. Tristan tells Junior not to sweat it since they already have a place to stay thanks to Vanessa and Doofenshmirtz offering their hospitality, which Junior is happy to hear. He's also happy he can finally drop out of school and be a gamer full-time, until his dad tells him he's not going to let that happen. But hey, it was worth a shot. And with that, MC Ballyhoo sends everyone back to their verses, then fades away with no explanation, with no indication of whether a new season will happen or not. And yeah, that's the video. From this point forward, I usually won't be planning on going into this much detail for Patreon requests, But this is one I've been planning and kept tweaking for months because I just really like the concept and wanted to make it a fully fleshed video. But my next video will be my actual shorter form Patreon requests. Speaking of which, if you'd like to donate, the link is in the description. It's $7.50 a month for monthly video requests. Anyway, until then, thank you so much for watching. I'm a musical individual, and I'll see you next time.